Klein froze as the shadowy figure stared at him from the corner of the room. Shit. What do I do? The fact that Dunn had laid out extremely specific instructions in his dream wasn't top of mind. Instead, all he could think was, how did they get in? Is my family okay? Did anyone get hurt or worse? This is all my fault. But a flash of clarity broke through his fear as the figure took a single step toward Klein. My gun! He slid his hand under his mattress, feeling the ornate carvings of his revolver's grip against his palm. He steadied his breath, grabbed hold of the weapon, and he shot up out of his bed and aimed his gun squarely at the shape. Don't fucking move. The shape obeyed, raised its hands in submission. Klein narrowed his eyes to get a better look at the intruder. He was scrawny, with deep blue eyes. He wouldn't have been intimidating, except there was also something dangerous in those eyes. They held a glint of something sharp, angry. Klein's heart raced. Why do I feel like if I make one wrong move, this guy will tear me apart with his bare hands? By some miracle, Klein kept his hands steady. He better not try to call my bluff. Goddess knows I'm a shit shot at the moment. Klein waved the gun towards the door. You're going to leave here, and if you make a single fucking sound, I won't hesitate. Don't test me. As they slowly emerged from his room, Benson snored loudly on the couch. Good thing leaving at the docks has made him a heavy sleeper. But as they crept into the seating area, Benson stirred. Shit, he's waking up. Right then, a soft, lilting melody floated from just outside the apartment. A lullaby about the Evernight goddess. Though threat of horror grows, so does the crimson cry. A certainty to those who see that this life does fly. A certainty to those who see that the rest is lies. The flower that once bloomed for you, now forever dies. Klein's eyelids felt heavy, heavier than they've ever been. He fought to stay awake, to push through, as he watched Benson drift back into a deep, deep sleep. Who has the power to put people to sleep? It didn't matter. Klein just wanted to lie down. But in his weariness, he saw that the intruder was unaffected. He wasn't soothed or tired. He seemed tense, like he was ready to pounce. Klein kept the gun pointed at him, even though it suddenly weighed 100 pounds in his arms. He shook his head slowly at the intruder. Don't you fucking try it. Klein opened the door to the hallway, but before he could react, the intruder bolted past him out of the apartment. Damn it! Klein's movements were sluggish. He was too fatigued to stop him from getting away. But he could try to follow him, catch him. Except the door slammed closed on his face. It smacked him directly on the nose and knocked him back. Ow! Damn it! The fatigue finally lifted, like someone had just pulled a blanket off him. Frustrated, he grabbed the doorknob. But no matter how hard he tried to turn it, it was stuck. Fuck this, come on! He pushed against the door with his entire body, but it didn't budge. Please let Dunn be out there. Please tell me this guy didn't get away. Without warning, the door flew open, yanking Klein into the hallway, sending him stumbling forward, almost colliding into Dunn, who stood casually in the hall, calm and collected. It's settled. Catching his breath, Klein glanced back at his brother, still sleeping on the couch, thank the goddess, and gently closed the door behind him. What do you mean it's settled? Dunn shrugged nonchalantly. We got the guy. A trickle of blood dripped from Klein's nose. Dunn frowned. Sorry about your face. I didn't want you to get hurt, so locking the door made the most sense. Klein pulled his shirt up to his nose to catch the bleeding. Was that your singing that almost knocked me out too? I thought you just did the dream thing. Dunn grinned. I'm a Sequence 7 nightmare, Klein. We have many abilities. Klein let that sink in. Intimidating. He pivoted. Who was that guy? Why the hell was he in my room? Dunn looked over his shoulder, checking the hallway, ensuring they were alone. He's from an ancient organization, the Secret Order. And they want the Antigonus Journal. Klein's eyes went wide. All this is about the journal? What was in that fucking book? Dunn put his hand on Klein's shoulder. So you see how important it is that we keep you safe. Your knowledge of the journal is central to this case. Klein wanted to scream. I wish I had any knowledge of the journal. But on the outside, Klein simply nodded. Dunn sighed deeply. It seems your situation is a bit more urgent than we initially thought. You've been a target left, right, and center. And some of these people are extremely powerful. You need to defend yourself. He gestured to the revolver in Klein's hand. And that's not really gonna cut it. Klein's brow furrowed. What are you saying? I think you can handle it. Klein still wasn't following. Handle what? Dunn smiled softly. I think we need to start your Beyonder training now. Klein was shocked. This is it. It's already happening. He tried to keep his voice even. What do I need to do? Dunn watched him carefully. Well, you can either wait an extremely long time until there's an opening in our ranks for you to become a sleepless, which is Sequence 9 of the first complete pathway the Nighthawks have. Klein blinked. What? Dunn clarified. Sequence 9 is the starting sequence to any pathway. The higher you go, the lower the sequence number gets. Remember? The sleepless pathway is the one I took. Dunn paused to make sure Klein followed. You can also choose from our other starting sequences, other Sequence 9s, from our incomplete options, meaning we don't have the formulas to complete those pathways. But you could start immediately. Klein had 1,000 questions, but he started with the obvious one. What are my choices there? The only way I can make an informed decision is to, actually get informed. Dunn held his gaze. The church has 3 starting sequence potion formulas. There's the Mystery Prior formula, which is the power that old Neil wields. Klein smirked. So it's the power to be a curmudgeon? Dunn laughed. No, that's just his innate charm. The Mystery Priors have deep knowledge in all manners of the mystical. They're able to sense certain existences that hide among matter. We don't have anything beyond Sequence 9, but you've met old Neil. He's powerful. Klein nodded. That sounds pretty helpful, actually. If I'm going to lead the Tarot Club, knowledge will be my most powerful ally. I can't pull my family out of poverty and change the world with brute force. But he still needed more information. And what are the other 2 Sequence 9s? Dunn raised an eyebrow. We've got one called Corpse Collector. As welcoming as that sounds, it just means that dead spirits think you're one of them and won't attack you. You'd gain resistance to their cadaveric auras, as well as extreme cold. Comes in handy when the winter rolls around, I'm sure. For that one, we have the 8th and 7th sequences, but nothing past that. Klein thought about the medium he had met. Is that what Daly did? Dunn nodded. It's where she started out. She's a Sequence 7 medium now. Standard psychic seance stuff, but extremely strong. That sounds fun, but not nearly as helpful as mystical knowledge would be. He had all but made up his mind. And what's the third, so I know? Well, we've only got the Sequence 9 potion for this one as well, and I'm not even sure if any other sequences exist anymore. It's called Seer. Klein's eyes went wide. Didn't I read about the Seer pathway in Emperor Russell's journal? I swear that was one of the ones he regretted not taking. He tried to stay calm. What powers do Seers have? Dunn chuckled to himself. There's a lot of different things you might learn. Astromancy, cartomancy, scrying, what have you. That said, drinking the potion doesn't mean you'll immediately know all of that. It just opens your mind, so you have the ability to grasp it all. He paused to consider. Which is all well and good, but it doesn't really help you fight monsters. It's probably the least combat-ready of the pathways. But it's a much more powerful sequence for intellectual pursuits than even Mystery Prior. Klein thought hard. The inability to help me in a fight is definitely a concern, but knowledge will help me most in the long run. He'd already decided against the Corpse Collector potion, but he was torn between the Mystery Prior and the Seer sequences. The Church doesn't have the subsequent sequences for either, but it worries me that Dunn's not even sure if more sequences exist for the Seer. Even still, he was drawn to it. Most people don't complete their pathway anyway. Dunn's a sequence 7, and look what he just did. Klein's head spun. There was so much to consider. Dunn steadied him. You don't have to decide immediately. Give yourself a bit to collect your thoughts. Follow your heart. Klein nodded, grateful for Dunn's support. But what the hell am I going to choose? Klein stood in the hallway with Dunn, who just presented him with the biggest decision of his life. Which Beyonder sequence will I take? Dunn put his hand on Klein's shoulder. You've got the weekend to make your decision, and I recommend you think long and hard about it, which doesn't seem like it'll be a problem. Klein's face was the picture of indecision. There's a lot to think about. Dunn chuckled. You know what? Maybe, for you, try not to overthink it. Just remember, whatever you choose, that decision can't be undone. So, don't screw up. And Dunn turned on his heels and left. No pressure. Klein re-entered his apartment, where Benson still slept soundly on the couch, thankfully. He wanted nothing more than to wake his older brother and ask him for advice. But that was impossible. No one was allowed to know about this piece of his life. He was destined to live a lie forever. And in the immediate, he had to figure this out on his own. I think Seer makes the most sense. Knowledge, the ability to tell the future, scrying. Any one of them would give me a massive advantage in this world. It would help with the Tarot Club immensely, too. He moved into his bedroom and gently closed the door. But as he turned toward his bed, the image of the intruder flashed before his eyes. But Seer would leave me open to attacks, since its powers wouldn't help me defend myself. If that man had known I wasn't a capable fighter, he could have killed me and my entire family without a second thought. Klein laid back down and tried to shake off the trauma of the evening. I'm so tense, I doubt I'll sleep for weeks. And with that, Klein promptly passed out. He woke several hours later to the sound of yelling coming from the sitting area. He opened his door, still groggy, to find Benson and Melissa mid-argument. Melissa was fuming. I can't believe you didn't talk to me before you asked the landlord to break the lease. Benson tried to soothe her. Klein's got a job now, and it pays pretty well. We don't have to live in squalor anymore. And if he loses that job, Then what? Melissa's eyes were wild with fear. We lose the new place. And it's not like there's an excess of affordable housing around here. So what? We live on the streets. Klein cleared his throat. Melissa, I'm not going to lose my job. Melissa immediately softened when she saw Klein. It's not about you. But that's just not something we can be sure of, you know? Klein wrapped his arm around her. It'll be okay. Melissa shook her head. If we have to move, we should look for more low-income housing. Benson sighed. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We won't qualify for it anymore, not with 2 incomes. He ran his hand through his hair. And we shouldn't be taking a spot away from someone else who really needs it. Melissa's face crumbled. I don't know how you both can just trust that this will last. Haven't you learned anything from, I don't know, the rest of our lives? She was on the edge of tears. Benson hugged her tightly. We're changing that pattern. Klein is changing it. I know we don't have a safety net and it feels scary, but we deserve to live somewhere with a damn bathroom. Melissa pulled away, still hesitant. I'd rather have security than a little more comfort. Klein chimed in softly. Mel, Benson could have a bedroom. Melissa bit her lip. Can't we wait just a little longer and save up? Klein furrowed his brow at his brother, still catching up to their conversation. You want to look at places already? Benson handed Klein a newspaper. No better time than the present. Klein studied the rental listings and saw that 3 houses from the Tingen City Housing Improvement Company had been circled. These are all within our price range. Benson grinned. I knew you'd understand. He pointed to one of the addresses. There's pros and cons to each of them, but that's closest to us if you want to tour it first. Klein had so many huge decisions hanging over him, he wasn't about to object to Benson taking the lead on this one. He nodded. Let's do it. Klein and Benson walked briskly down the street, excited to check out their first house. Melissa trailed behind them, glum. A well-dressed man stood anxiously in front of 2 Daffodil Street. When he saw the siblings approach, he smiled wider than felt natural. I'm glad you could all come on such short notice. I'm Carter. Benson shook his hand. I'm Benson. This is my brother Klein and my sister Melissa. Somehow, Carter's smile widened even further. A family affair. So very nice to meet you. He turned to Klein and Melissa. Are you excited to see your new potential home? Klein nodded. Of course. Melissa studied the sidewalk, miserable. Carter eagerly clapped his hands together. Let's get a move on, shall we? Pun intended, I hope. Carter motioned for them to check it out. It's a bit of a fixer-upper, but it's got great bones. As they walked around the empty house, Klein scanned the place carefully. There's dust everywhere, not much natural light, and there's no yard or garden or anything. But it's got 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and a balcony? Before Klein could externalize any of his concerns, he saw the wide-eyed look on Melissa's face. She seemed to be in awe of the place, like she'd never seen a house so grand before. Her face was all he needed to see. He pulled Carter aside, voice low. Hi, excuse me, but how much would it cost to buy this home? Instead of renting? Carter stared at him incredulously, wondering if Klein was joking. When it was clear that he was serious, Carter gave him an honest answer. Your brother shared your financial situation with me over the phone. Going off of that, it would take you about 30 years to save up enough to buy it. And that's if you never paid for a meal again. Klein shrunk back. This is why I need the Tarot Club. Because following the rules there's no way to truly recover from being poor. We would have needed an inheritance to accumulate the kind of wealth that buys homes. Benson approached Klein. "Well, what do you think?" Klein smiled. "I think we can start by renting the place and take it from there." Benson beamed with excitement. He put his arm over Carter's shoulder. "Let's talk business." He led Carter into the living room. A real living room, not a tiny sitting area. Klein saw Melissa running her hand across the crown molding. He intercepted her, eyes bright. "Do you like it?" Melissa's voice was wistful. "It's a dream. I never imagined anything like it." Klein nodded solemnly. "You know, they get even bigger." Melissa rolled her eyes. "I'm not a child, you know. I just never thought we'd be in a position where we could even tour a place like this." Benson strode back into the room, 3 sets of keys in his hand. "We can do even more than that, Mel." He tossed her one of the sets of keys. "We can move in today." Melissa was at a complete loss for words. Her eyes welled with tears. "What about our lease?" Benson shrugged. "I terminated our lease before we even took the tour." He smirked. "I had a good feeling." Melissa should have been furious, but she was too excited about their new home. She pulled Klein and Benson into a massive hug. "I can't believe this." She sobbed into Benson's shoulder. "I get my own bathroom." Benson laughed. "Now wait a second. We haven't divvied up who gets what yet. What about security versus comfort?" She pulled back and stared daggers at him. "I get my own bathroom." The siblings hastily packed all of their possessions, which, admittedly, weren't many. Everything Klein owned filled 2 suitcases. As he cleared his desk, he remembered waking up there with a bullet in his head. Hopefully, the next tenants have better luck with this place. He dragged his bags out of the room and stood in the empty sitting area. It's time for the fool to embrace his new beginning. Melissa shouted from the foyer. "We have a doorbell? Can you believe it?" Benson groaned. Yes, I do believe it because you keep ringing it." Klein settled into his new room and sat on his bed. Their new home had been a nice distraction from the bigger question on his mind. What Beyonder sequence was he going to take? What if I choose the wrong one and regret it like Emperor Russell did? What if the potions don't work, or worse? What if I lose control? Suddenly, Melissa popped her head into the room. "Hey, we're having dinner. Come on." She ran off before Klein could respond. As he walked toward the kitchen, he saw Benson and Melissa, joyful and teasing, setting the dinner table together. A vastly different scene than the one he woke up to. Klein was overcome with emotion. He thought about his past life as Cade. He'd never had a reason to feel proud of himself back then. He had so many memories from his original life, and some of them were good, sure. But as Klein, he was capable of doing so much more. The future was full of possibility. As he sat down at the dinner table, he felt at peace for the first time in a long time. I've made up my mind. I know what I'm going to choose. Klein entered the Blackthorn Security Company, breezed past a snoring Roseanne, and beelined for Dunn's office. Dunn sat reclined, feet up on his desk, when Klein burst in and slammed his hands down on the desk. "I want to be a seer." Dunn grinned. "Lucky for you, we have all the ingredients for the seer potion ready to go." Klein was confused. "You already had them prepared?" Dunn laughed. "It didn't take a seer to figure out where you were headed." Klein balked. "Why didn't you just tell me that when you made the offer?" Dunn shrugged. I'm not the one making the life-changing decision. I'm not a meddler. Klein shot him a skeptical look. You interjected yourself into my life and brought me into the Nighthawks. That feels a little meddly. Dunn's grin only grew wider. I gave you a choice every step of the way, didn't I? You're acting like free will doesn't exist. Klein froze. Wait, does free will not exist? I guess seers can see the future, but does that mean it's predetermined? He shook off the thought. Nope, not going there. That's too heady for me to worry about right now. Dunn stood and beckoned to Klein to follow him. Unfortunately, we can't promote you within our organization right now, so there's no pay raise or anything. But that doesn't mean you can't partake in higher-level training. He led Klein down the steep stone stairwell and into the dark corridor under the office. You should still study in the archives and learn to shoot, of course. He turned to face Klein, serious. And none of this should take away from retrieving your memories about the missing Antigonus journal. But now you'll also be training in mysticism. Klein nodded. That makes sense. I have to learn to be a seer. Remember, you won't be a full-fledged seer. You're just going to be on the first rung of the ladder. Dunn softened. That said, old Neil can train your mystic knowledge. So hopefully, you can get the most out of your powers. He led Klein into the small room where old Neil spent most of his time, full of old-fashioned jars lining the walls. Several cauldrons sat atop stoves, steam rising to the ceiling. The room had an earthy smell, infused with something intangible. Klein leaned in toward one of the cauldrons, drawn to its fragrance. Dunn put his hand out to stop him. Don't touch that. Klein stepped back, eyeing the cauldron suspiciously. Is it dangerous? Worse. Dunn gave him a wry wink. Expensive. He turned to leave when Klein called after him. Where are you going? But Dunn kept moving, answering over his shoulder. You don't need a babysitter. Just wait here for old Neil. And with that, he was gone. Klein's gaze fell to all the potions brewing. What if this goes badly? What if I lose control, become an evil monster, and the Nighthawks have to take me down? What if... Old Neil cleared his throat. Ahem. Thought you'd never show up. Klein stared at the elderly man, confused. What do you mean? I was waiting for you. He looked around, trying to figure out where the hell Neil had snuck in from. Neil waved his hand in dismissal. Whatever you say. He chuckled, giving Klein a once-over. It's a unique choice, seer. Not many go for it. That was news to Klein. Huh? Why is that? It's a real pain in the ass, that one. Doesn't go down easy, and its benefits are... How do I put this? He mulled it over. More... esoteric than the other pathways. He could tell that Klein was growing increasingly uneasy. He smiled. Don't worry, kid. You'll be fine. Probably. Neil casually walked over to one of the cauldrons, stirred it twice, took a sniff, then added a powdery substance to it. He didn't measure anything. It was like he was cooking on vibes rather than a recipe. I hope he knows what he's doing. If even one thing wasn't followed to the letter, the potion could poison me. Neil casually tossed in more ingredients. Night vanilla extract, 7 golden mint leaves, 3 drops of poison hemlock. Klein coughed. Okay, so there's actual poison in it. Great. Neil added a little powder to the pot, then paused to consider. He added more. Dragon blood powder. He turned to Klein. And now, for the 2 most exotic ingredients. Lavos squid's blood. He held up a vial that glowed neon blue. He poured the liquid into the cauldron, and its contents immediately glowed and bubbled. Amazing. Neil held up another vial filled with a strange gel. And, of course, star crystal. He tipped the vial over, and the substance slowly oozed into the cauldron. The mixture sizzled and congealed. A vanilla-scented fog filled the room, and for a moment, all Klein could see was blue. Oddly, he felt at ease. He watched stars form in his vision and explode, little galaxies of sweetness and light. Just then, he sensed another presence in the room with them, but he didn't feel threatened by it. Whatever it was, it seemed friendly, like someone simply enjoying the show. And just like that, the fog dissipated and the feeling was gone. Neil ladled the final product from the cauldron into a glass and handed it to Klein. Klein stared at the blue, viscous liquid. This is it. This will change my life. For worse or for better? I don't know. Neil impatiently goaded him on. No time like the present, boyo. And believe me, I know. Klein eyed the concoction skeptically. Shouldn't we do a ritual or say a prayer or, I don't know, be in a church or something? Neil shrugged. You can do whatever the hell you want as long as you drink the damn thing. You want to do a little dance, sing a little ditty, whatever floats your boat. Klein took a deep breath and brought the glass up to his lips, but Neil stopped him. Just don't be nervous. If you're nervous, it'll affect the potion's efficiency. Well, shit. If you didn't say that, I probably wouldn't have been nervous. But now I'm nervous about being nervous. Klein closed his eyes. I need to calm down. He steeled himself, then held the glass back up to his lips. Bottoms up. He downed the liquid like a shot. It tasted surprisingly pleasant, which almost distracted from the fact that it felt like it was growing sharp claws inside his throat. Almost. It was as though the potion was alive and scrambling to get back out of his mouth. It left a freezing sensation down his esophagus as he fought the urge to retch. Okay, that wasn't pleasant, but I expected worse. Old Neil watched him carefully. Are you ready? Klein looked at him, befuddled. For what? Old Neil chuckled. The rough part. Suddenly, Klein's body began to feel numb. It spread from his toes all the way up to his neck, like he'd been submerged in a block of ice. Too cold to even feel cold anymore. The entire world became wildly saturated. Every color got more and more intense, a richer palette than he had ever experienced. The room spun around him, and he grew dizzy. He gripped the table to stop himself from falling off the face of the planet. His vision blurred, his surroundings melting, like everything was made of wax and he was a lit match. The table he'd gripped came apart in his hands. More wax. But then, when he looked at his hands, they weren't hands anymore. They were alive. There were 1,000 maggots wriggling in the shape of his hands. But as soon as he realized what he was seeing, the maggots fell apart, and he was left with only the memory of hands. Huh? He looked down and realized that he no longer seemed to have a body at all. His torso wasn't where it usually was, nor were his legs. Where his feet had gone was anybody's guess. His entire self dissolved, until he was merely a thought within a thought within a thought. He tried to call out, but he made no sound. Wait, Did I actually call out, or was that just another thought? Do I even have a mouth? What are mouths? Without ears, he heard a roaring sea nearby, which was somehow completely normal, even though they were underground in the middle of the city. Klein searched for anything to brace himself against, even though he didn't seem to have a self to brace. The ocean will swallow me whole if I don't do something. But there was nothing to do. A great wave of ice-cold water crashed into the room, flooding it instantly. He tried to swim to the surface, but the surface no longer existed. All he could do was sink deeper and deeper. And as he sank, the ocean got darker and darker, until he was enveloped in darkness. Without eyes, he looked down and saw himself seizing on the ocean floor. Is that me? Or am I that? Or this? Or... A thought struck him like a harpoon to the skull. Oh no. This must be what it's like to lose control. I've lost my mind. Fear gripped Klein's heart at the thought of losing control, of losing his mind, becoming a monster, literally, figuratively, or all of the above. He glanced down again, watching in horror as his stiff, lifeless body seized on the ocean floor below. He needs help. I need help. He swam down to the ocean floor and tried to grab hold of the convulsing Klein, to pull himself out of the surging sea, but his hand passed right through like a ghost. Before he could even react, trails of immaculate colors floated into his vision, colors that felt indescribable, undiscovered, their brilliance leading Klein to believe, in that moment, that they contained infinite knowledge. All he had to do was swim inside. But as easy as it would be to succumb to their transcendence, he couldn't leave himself to die. Klein fought tooth and nail to pick himself up off the ground, to solidify himself and become real again, to rescue this other Klein before he was swept away. A great bolt of lightning careened through the water and struck him in his back, knocking him forward and thrusting him on top of his own convulsing body, merging Klein back into himself, two becoming one. Air. I need air. Stiffness turned to dizziness as the now whole Klein struggled to swim against the current. And then, in an instant, the sea churned around him until it disappeared completely, swirling back into his mind. Klein collapsed onto the ground. After a moment, he opened his eyes to see the alchemy room back to its normal state. Except everything was spinning now, and Klein's double vision made him nauseous, not to mention his splitting headache. Fuck, not this again. There was a ringing in Klein's ears, a cacophony of voices emerging from the clamor. Klein wanted to rip his head off of his body and throw it away, but oddly he recognized the ramblings. They were in Hermes, one of the ancient languages he'd studied. He could only make out a few words. Hornesis. Frigera. But it sounded like 1,000 voices shouting at once, and there was no use in trying to translate it now, not in the state he was currently in. Old Neil casually smirked as Klein writhed on the ground in agony. Are you hearing sounds that you couldn't hear before? Klein groaned. Yes. Old Neil laughed. Ha! Now you know how I feel. Klein felt rage at the sound of his laughter. What's so funny, you old fucking asshole? And the voices would not let up. Neil sighed. You lack the means to control the potion. You need to learn to quiet the noise of your power. Do as I say. Imagine an item in your mind. Something simple, common. Klein fought through the pain and conjured an image of his old black silk top hat. He stammered an update to Neil. Got it. Neil nodded. Now, trace it in your mind. Outline it. Then again, over and over. Imagine its color, its texture. Desperately holding on to the image, Klein traced the top hat, noting its shape, half height and round, its texture, silky but rough. He reached out and tried to hold it, light and smooth, until he felt its weight in his hands. Neil urged him on. Put all your attention on it. Keep repeating it, sketching it. Don't stop. Klein did, over and over, until it had been traced over what felt like 1,000 times. And without any warning or fanfare, before he even noticed its absence, the noise was gone, and the world was simplified again. Klein opened his eyes to a clearer vision of old Neil looming over him, grinning his obnoxious grin. Much better, yes? Klein winced. Yes. This is meditation. You'll need to practice it frequently in order to keep your feet on the ground. Old Neil gestured to the floor where Klein was still lying. Klein arduously lifted himself up with a touch of embarrassment. Did it work? Am I a seer now? Neil lifted a small, silver-plated mirror from the table and held it in front of Klein. See anything different? Klein looked in the mirror. Apart from his hair being out of place and some sweat on his face, he didn't see any major differences in his own face. Should I? Neil gestured to his reflection. Look at the eyes, kid. Klein looked back into the mirror, more carefully this time. Gazing into his own eyes, he noticed that they had gotten darker, deeper even. The brown of his irises almost merging with the black of his pupils like two inky celestial orbs. They looked like they could absorb people's souls. Klein didn't realize he was thinking aloud. Neil chuckled. Once you learn how to properly meditate and restrain yourself, your eyes will probably return to normal. But for now, congratulations. The potion has taken hold. Klein wasn't sure whether to be excited or scared. Thank you. Neil pulled a book from a nearby shelf and handed it to Klein. In this book, you'll find everything you need for your journey as a seer. Read it, study it, familiarize yourself with its terms and rules. Klein took the thick, heavy tome in his hands. Great, more homework. He paged through it idly. When can we work on more meditation? Soon. Neil patted Klein on the back. True meditation is advanced, but there's another method that all mystics should know. It's commonly used and easy to master. Klein turned to Neil, eager. What is it? Neil spun around with a flourish. Spiritual vision. Klein didn't share in old Neil's elation, as he was unfamiliar with the concept. He's nimble for his age, I'll give him that. Neil rolled his eyes at Klein's blank stare. Are you familiar with auras, Klein? Sure. I've heard of them. One by one, old Neil turned off the gas lamps in the room, shrouding them in darkness. He cracked the door of the alchemy lab, allowing just a small bit of light to peek in. Klein could see very little, but he could see. The shadowy figure that was Neil leaned against the wall. Raise your hands and put them in front of your eyes with your index fingers facing each other, but not touching. Klein followed old Neil's instruction. Such a good student, Neil grunted. Now hold him there. Look at him until you get used to the darkness. Klein stared at his fingers until he could make out their shape and outline, even a bit of their color and contour. Focus on the space between your two fingers. Move them slowly, back and forth. Keep them facing each other, but don't let them touch. Don't let them leave your sight. Klein focused his eyes intently like Neil told him to, moving his hands once, twice, 3 times, and flash. A fiery red emanation appeared between his fingers. Whoa. Neil's voice contained a hint of approval. This is spirit vision, kid. Yours to harness when you see fit. Those colors you see are your aura. Go ahead, do it a few more times. Stabilize it and keep looking. Klein continued to move his fingers back and forth, swaying and swirling the small red aura as if he were playing with a new toy. Cool. Neil watched Klein's progress closely. Mainstream mysticism teaches that auras exist in the outermost layer of the body, the etheric body. That is the expression of your life energy. When you view it through a spiritual lens, each part of the body is represented by a different color. Neil ticked each one off on his fingers. Hands and feet and any areas involved in movement will appear red. The surface of your head and brain are purple. Your digestive system, along with areas where excretion and detoxification occur, look orange. Klein grimaced. Maybe a little too much information. Neil continued. The heart and regulatory system's green, and the nervous system's blue. A person with overall health and balance combines all the colors, enveloping the entire body in white. White aura, great health. For the first time since he began the exercise, Klein looked up from his hands to see old Neil, shrouded in color. Each part of his body was painted a different tone, some thick, some thin. The purple on his head was the brightest, but the red on his hands and feet was relatively dim. Klein felt sad, noticing how little white there was to be found on Neil's aging body. A depressing, albeit dynamic display of his withering health. Still, it was a sight to behold. Klein marveled at what he could do. This is my spirit vision. Neil smiled. Yes. Keep up your practices and you'll be able to see even more with it. More? Like what? Neil's tone was nonchalant. The emotional state of people, their ambitions. Emotions have a set of colors you'll need to know too. He cocked his head, thoughtful. Some even say at its most advanced level, you'll be able to see how long a person will live. Klein was exhilarated. Again. Whoa. His gaze fell back down to his fingers, which he hadn't moved from their pointed position, the red aura between them still glowing. It hit Klein like a brick. I have powers. Holy shit. I'm a Beyonder. Neil shook his head, scoffing. Don't get ahead of yourself now. There's still a lot of work to be done. Old Neil had an especially crusty way of taking the wind out of Klein's sails. Thanks a lot. Suddenly, Klein noticed something. Just behind old Neil, a glowing pair of eyes blinked in the darkness. Klein reeled back, startled. Neil! Behind you! Old Neil didn't move. Instead, he just smiled his tight, wrinkled old smile. Ignore them.